Today, the ultimate luxury for a developer is hitting push and walking away. You write the code, and massive cloud platforms handle the rest, wrapping your work in infrastructure that feels completely impenetrable. Vercel is the billion-dollar titan of this ecosystem. They host the front ends for some of the biggest websites on the internet, integrating deeply with new AI tools to deliver an incredibly fast, frictionless experience for top-tier developers. Then, on a Sunday afternoon in April 2026, a security bulletin quietly appeared on their site. It announced that someone had gained unauthorized access to internal Vercel systems. Panic rippled through the community almost immediately. Customer environments had been breached, exposing the live production data that keeps businesses running securely. Attackers grabbed API keys, raw database credentials, production signing tokens, the exact secrets required to completely take over a company's digital footprint. The defining characteristic of this breach is how the attackers navigated the architecture. They never touched Vercel's main security perimeter. They didn't break down the front door. The call came directly through a trusted connection. Modern developer workspaces are rarely completely isolated. They are deeply wired into external applications, plugins, and services to speed up workflows. One of those services was context.ai, a third-party AI tool. Inside Vercel, it was being used by a single employee. The attacker made their first move entirely outside of Vercel's view, quietly compromising the infrastructure over at context.ai. This is where the pivot happened. Context.ai held an active OAuth authorization, a digital permission slip connecting directly to that employee's Google Workspace. By hijacking that token, the attacker could step right through the digital doorway, perfectly masquerading as the Vercel employee. Controlling that Google Workspace account was all they needed. It instantly granted the attackers high-level access keys straight into Vercel's internal environment. This illustrates the mechanics of transitive trust. If System A trusts System B, and System B trusts System C, a compromise in C guarantees the destruction of A. Vercel trusted the employee trusted the AI tool, and the attackers exploited the chain. Once the attackers slipped past the perimeter, they found an environment practically waiting to be harvested. Inside Vercel's system, environment variables, where users store their secret keys, were set as non-sensitive by default. This meant they were entirely readable in plain text. Developers, prioritizing the speed of instant deployments and AI-assisted vibe coding, routinely pasted highly sensitive production keys right into these unsecured fields, without ever flipping that switch. As the weekend progressed, the community's reaction turned to intense frustration. Official email alerts from Vercel were agonizingly slow to reach the affected users. Instead of receiving corporate guidance, developers were scrambling to find out they were compromised through tech influencers and massive, panicky threads on Hacker News. Then the actual timeline emerged. The initial breach didn't happen that weekend. The attackers successfully held that compromised OAuth token for a full month before anyone even noticed. The software industry has spent the last decade obsessing over frictionless user experiences and instant deployment. By prioritizing speed over structure, they inadvertently created a massive, silent security blind spot. In the immediate aftermath, Vercel scrambled to deploy emergency updates. They forced the environment variable default to sensitive on and brought in incident response teams from CrowdStrike and Mandiant to investigate. The severe operational burden fell squarely on the customers. They were forced to blindly rotate every single compromised secret across their entire stack without knowing if the attackers had already used them. As the dust settled, the broader industry discourse began to shift. The developer community recognized a failure in the ecosystem itself. Decades ago, the foundational Unix philosophy championed the idea of building robust, deliberately isolated systems that did one thing perfectly and securely. The modern web has completely abandoned that isolation. Today's platforms rely on wiring together hundreds of deeply interconnected third-party apps, browser extensions, and AI assistants. In a world driven by AI-generated code and one-click deployments, convenience carries a hidden cost. Developers now have to adopt a rigorous zero-trust mindset, because a multi-million-dollar platform is ultimately only as secure as its most insignificant third-party plugin.